All right, guys. I saw a lot of questions popping up in chat, guild chat, pretty much everywhere about like, this guild battle shit. And if this is your first gacha game, I'm gonna go ahead and break this down for you so you can start to understand the lingo, how to read the map, make decisions. Pretty much I want to get you on to speed where you can actually understand what the fuck is going on. Now, the key terms that you're going to want to know is, first off the bat, we have something what is known as fodder. And fodder is anything that is average or below average, right? So if you're sitting in chat and everyone else looks bigger than you, you're probably going to be fodder. Sorry to say it, that's just how it is. It's just the fact that your role is very specific. You're not going to be breaking a lot of teams down. You're usually actually used for weakening teams, which is incredibly important in order for pushes and stuff like that. I'll go over it more in the future in the purpose of fodder. Next, there's a key term that I like to use, which is like a windbreaker, or you can call it like a momentum breaker or creator, whatever you want to call it. And this is anything that's about average or a little bit above average with a lot of the active users. So if I were to click on chat right now and I pick on someone on random, right? So if we look at Yuri Pai, they're about 500k. What about Phil? Phil is non-existent. They don't exist. Lenny Boy, about 800k. As you can see right here, everything's about half a mil to about a mil, right? It's pretty much the average, right? We got a 1.5 here. So just putting that into perspective, right? So if you join the server and everyone's sitting at 2 mil, that's about the average. So if it's anything at average or a little bit above, it hits a little bit higher, then that is something that you would use for creating momentum. Lastly, we have the big fucking boyos. And it's pretty obvious what it is. It's anyone that's on the top like 20 of the leaderboard. They have these massive fucking teams. And so when you see something like if we go to Mew Mew Cafe, we go to survey here, we got a big fucking boyo right there at 17 mil. We got a big fucking boyo at 20 mil. We got a 26 mil, a 40 mil. This point is stacked, right? So in order to take down one of those teams, you kind of have to hit it different, right? Essentially what you can do to break down those teams is toss a fuck ton of fodder at it. And then you try and hit it with something big enough to topple it over, instead of just challenging a mountain with like a couple, relatively decent sized mountain. You just got to let the water fucking run it down a little bit. And then once it shrinks down a bit, then you can fucking knock it over. The stats on the teams that you're throwing fodder into actually get weakened over time. So you don't have to sit there and try and throw 40 mils at it. Right. Of course, you're gonna find people that are like this, that are complete fucking whales, and it might be discouraging, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if you got enough active people, you can fucking take that shit down, and don't stress too much about it. Now, for reading the map, you can see out here, everything claimed at this moment is tier 1, right? So when a map starts and you're declaring on the map, if you don't hold a zone, the only thing you can declare war on to challenge is actually tier 1s. So in order to get a tier 2, you actually have to own a domain that's connected to that tier 2. So if you own this one right here, you can actually challenge this tier 2 and this tier 2. Now, if someone's declared war on it before you did, you can't stack wars on top of each other, so only one person can declare war on it at a time. So Kazdel Vienna is guaranteed to get this position, Harmony is guaranteed to get this position, TO is guaranteed this one, and TO is guaranteed this one. Based on these positions right now, TO probably has a lot of active members declaring war. They probably have someone that's experienced because they actually claimed one of the best spots in the game right now, which is this castle right here. This castle right here actually opened up this one for them. And they actually have another castle. I think it's, where's TO's other castle? Oh, right here. Yeah, I actually went over it. They have this one right here. This one doesn't matter to them. So if otaku's, that's such a weird thing to say. When it comes to Japanese words, don't plural that shit. So for otaku, they can actually challenge this one, and Tio will probably give it up. Tio probably doesn't give a fuck about this one. As you can see right here, they only stacked it with 6. They got like 2 decent sized, or actually 3 decent sized teams on it. They're really not putting that much effort into it. The main things that they're going to want to defend is something like this, and then they want to capture these 2. The NPCs on these, the guards on these castles right off on the map start, it's actually incredibly weak. It's very easy to take over. So they're pretty much guaranteed that position. Now, I've been talking about tier 1s, tier 2s, and this is the tier 3 right here. I'm going to break down what they mean. So for currently, the blue castles are tier 1s, right? As they get a little bit bigger, these red ones right here are the tier 2s. And the massive one right here is the tier 3, right? The only way to capture a tier 3 is you have to obtain one of these tier 2s. And to get a tier 2, you have to have one of these tier 1s. Now, as far as the values go, you can see right here, this is about 300 points right here. And it takes about 5 of the tier 1s to be equivalent to one of the tier 2s. And it actually takes 2 tier 2s to be equivalent to the tier 3 right here. So really, when it comes down to this, you want to pick somewhere, you want to capture a tier 1 that's as minimal wars away from a tier 2 as possible. Sadly, the closest one we got is actually 2 castles away from a tier 2, or actually 3 wars away. Technically, we can try and come down through Mew Mew, but since Harmony actually declared on there, we can't go Mew Mew and then up here. So we would have to wait for next war to capture this if we were to go this way. And then we would have to follow up with another one and try and capture this one as well. So we're actually going up through here, through Casdel Vien, and then we're going to either come out right here or right here, depending on how the map evolves over time. As you can see right here, there is a very suspicious activity right here. This is known as war blocking. Typically in these gacha games, this is very frowned upon, and it's pretty much using a sister guild to declare our war on you so you cannot be challenged. It's actually very toxic behavior. A lot of people talk a lot of shit when you do that kind of stuff, but I mean, some people just don't give a fuck. Now, I'm going to talk about these buttons right here, and there's actually a third button that will pop up during wartime. The base will tell you about the history, your rewards. So this is actually known as a church. And then if we click on this one, it'll be the castle, and this will be capital, I'm assuming. Oh, it's going to be called temple. So on the tier 1s right here, you can see this is the battle history, the MVP, the person that took it out the most. And I'm assuming what's going to happen is when you're cranking out, when you send out your team and it starts wiping wave after wave after wave, it'll probably show your top contributor right here, and then previous records right here. You could actually watch the replay right here. I mean, I don't really care for it, but you could. As you can see, you can kind of see how their teams play out. If you're really going to go that deep into it, I don't think it's that big of a thing. The main thing you want to look into is like what kind of defense lineup that they have set up and what kind of defense you have set up. So I actually set ours up on defense right here. Now, speaking of defense or survey, when you click on survey, you actually see the enemy team's defense setup, right? This is a feature that you see me doing. You can kind of see what kind of spread they got going on with their major teams. They obviously heavily front loaded. The perk about front loading is if those are your active members and they front loaded, once they get taken down, they can re-put up those big boys. Now, you can see right here, I actually set up ours earlier today. We got a fair spread. I actually backloaded, and the reason why I backloaded is so I can communicate and find out who's there during the war, so I can actually position appropriately. right? Because if Kishira and Rai Rai are not here, it makes no sense to put them in the front, because once they get taken out, I can't make use of them again. Meanwhile, everything above that, I can actually manipulate and kind of just weaken it down, soften it up to make them use up their units, and then try and keep this to make sure that they're stable. You want to go through resources that you can re-upload. So if NA is here and Min is here, Fortin is here, Fauna is here, whatever, you're going to make sure that they're constantly actively watching their defense. And that's pretty much how defense goes. So if you get called out for defense, you should place down your first wave during strategy time. So whoever's your shot caller or whoever's on defense duty can make sure everything's organized properly. And then during wartime, if you're on defense, the only thing you have to do is make sure that you're re-uploading your defense until your stamina runs out. You can see right here, I'm actually reserving all my stamina, all my units for attacking, because I need to take that castle right there held by Castel Vienne. And I have to organize with other attackers to make sure that I can break down these bigger teams. Since I have a history of doing this kind of stuff, it's pretty much, I know what kind of resources that I need in order to try and take this down. Now, I may actually record the war and the kind of things that I'm watching for, just to kind of give you guys an in-game viewpoint. But that pretty much covers everything from attack and defense point of view. For attack, you're just going to declare here, and whatever defense that whatever defense team they have set up right there, you need to act appropriately. If it's something that is way above your weight, you need to weaken it down with fodder, and then you can start trying to build momentum and stacking bigger boys on top of it. And say if down here, let's say if we had like a 20 mil, let's say Relos had a 20 mil right here, I may drop a 1.5 mil, just to break down to the point. And then I would start fodder layering up after that, just to break that down and then continue on. I will say that attacking is a lot more complicated. If you haven't done wars like this before, I highly recommend you go on defense, and then while your team is perfectly fine and you see that something's not being attacked, watch the map, because you can actually watch other people fight too. You can click survey right here, or you can click the base, and you can actually see the combat going along and just kind of get an idea or feel of how other people address like certain situations and how they tackle their problems. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord. We actually have a Discord that we advertise for server 2. It's hosted by Cap and Gecko and a couple other people. I also advertise the server information in the chat. So if you're just curious on how to get in contact, and if you want to get more direct help, just hit me up. I'm always free. You can add me, MementoMori, in the Discord. If you have any questions, just leave it down in the comments below or reach out on Discord, and catch you later. See you, nerds.